The IDF is currently conducting widespread strikes against Hamas, terrorist organization, their infrastructure, their operational capability, their terrorist activities, and also their staging grounds, their weapons facilities. We are striking Hamas so they can never, ever attack us again like they did on Saturday. We've done extensive strikes against individuals, so the leadership of Hamas, they are being pursued. We are hunting down those that were involved in the attack themselves. We're utilizing all of our intelligence capabilities in order to seek out and destroy those capabilities, including tunnel capabilities, intelligence capabilities. There are activities that are combined in order to conduct strikes or prevent Israeli counterstrikes that are taking place. And we're, of course, also operating in order to defend the state of Israel and restore security to Israel. So our Iron Dome defense mechanisms are operational, and we're intercepting the vast majority of rockets that are coming out of Gaza. And each one of those rockets is a potential target of civilian of the civilian arena. And we're also replenishing and refilling the border area itself. So we're fixing the barrier, making sure that there are enough troops on the ground, utilizing the Air Force, restoring all of the technological capabilities that we had prior to the attack. We've completed a recruiting of some 300,000 reservists. Their role is, I would say, on all of Israel's fronts at the moment. So obviously being prepared for a ground operation if the government decides and instructs us to do so, but also be prepared on the front with Lebanon. We had an anti-tank guided missile fired at forces at the border yesterday that we responded to. And we need to be prepared also on the Golan Heights for the border with Syria that we've had mortar rounds fired there. And of course, within the West Bank, at the level of terrorism that is still exists there, and we need to be prepared. So lots of forces on the ground, lots of operational activity against Hamas, and making sure that we are taking the fight to Hamas. Effectively, Hamas broke the rules of the game. Now we're changing the game. Yesterday, we killed 5 terrorists that were still in Israeli territory, and that was day 5 of the activity since the operation. So there's still a possibility that they're holed out in bushes or in a cupboard. So we're taking extreme caution in access to the area. It's considered still a conflict zone around the area. We've evacuated the vast majority of the population there. There are still people that wanted to stay behind, but the vast majority of the population has been evacuated. And there are a lot of forces, and we are conducting activities on the ground. We are still finding bodies of civilians on the ground. There are still a lot of people unaccounted for. So the activity continues. We can't be certain that there are no terrorists still in southern Israel. The operation continues. No human being can remain passive to the heart-wrenching images of people, women, children murdered, executioned, brutalized, dismembered, decapitated. All of these things are the really, really terrible images that have, even those that are circulating on social media. And of course, the forces that are finding these and the medical forces and the IDF that are going through it affects us all. But it just, I think, and I believe that it gives us the resolve that we need to change that game that we talked about, to recalibrate the relationship between Israel and the Gaza Strip. The people of Gaza are not the enemy of Israel. Hamas is the enemy of Israel, and Hamas is actually the enemy of everybody because they abducted people into Gaza, tens of people into Gaza from all nationalities, from every continent on the world. They don't care. They just want to murder. So this just goes to exemplify how Hamas have failed the people of Gaza. They have failed their own people. But Israel is determined to make sure that Hamas can never do this again. And we're doing it in a way which is intelligence-based, but also in a very, very decisive way. Unfortunately, since the dawn of war, civilians have been caught up in conflict. We'll do our maximum, but I think the real question is, what are the people of Gaza asking from Hamas now after this happened? Because what we need to understand is Hamas made a strategic plan to open a war with Israel. And the expectation that Israel will not respond or not defend its civilians because Hamas is hiding behind their civilians. That's just an immoral expectation from any country in the world. 1,200 people butchered and murdered and counting. The magnitude of this devastation is really, really unbelievable. So we have no choice but to operate. We'll do it in a way that, as possible, as to minimize civilian casualties. But unfortunately, it is an inevitability of conflict and war in this area. So I need to be clear, Hamas are responsible for the well-being of those people, innocent people that they abducted. It's their responsibility to return them, and I'd say return immediately to Israel in good state. They will bear the consequences of their actions. Of course, there are concerns and considerations for the well-being and our operations, and we need to do everything possible in order to bring them home. The aim is to destroy Hamas's capabilities, and we're doing that by degrading and destroying and attacking all of their infrastructure. It was a strategic decision by Hamas's leadership to do this strategic attack against Israel. So the whole system is being struck, is being attacked, and being destroyed. I would say that the end game needs to be a new reality in Gaza, without Hamas, preferably, but in no way or form can we allow Hamas to have a terrorist army to infiltrate Israel and kill and butcher people. So the end game needs to be a new reality for all of the people living in the south of Israel and in Israel throughout. The Iron Dome missile defense system has radars that pick up the launches of rockets. And then once a launch is identified, the Iron Dome missile defense system only intercepts rockets that are intended to land in populated urban areas. And by doing so, it saves lives. There are operators that utilize it, but there's also a certain level of automation. But it is very effective in safeguarding the people of Israel. It's a very serious piece of our defensive mechanism. If you are identifying with the butchering of women, children, and men, or abducting of elderly people, then you're on the wrong side of history. So we're very, very grateful and encouraged by the widespread support of governments, of people, of organizations, of communities, and those that are not being supportive or are trying to be balanced are trivializing terrorism and empowering the radicals that wanted to kill us. So I would say you need to be very, very clear that murdering and butchering people and children and abducting the elderly is unacceptable for any decent nation, and everybody needs to be on the right side of history today.